Hi everyone, Stephanie with Nine Health here, joining you today with an easy recipe you can cook in your kitchen. I have a registered dietitian I'll introduce you to in just a moment. Sorry we're joining you a little late. We're having some technical difficulties once again with Zoom to Facebook, but this is the world we're in now, so all these technical things are going to happen. But we are still here joining you. We have a nice recipe to share with you, and I'll put the recipe in the comments as well, a link to it so you can follow along and see the steps, the ingredients. We also have Dr. Pao Coley here to answer some of your coronavirus questions if you have any of those, and she's going to give us some insight as well into the healthy things we should all have in our kitchen. As a cardiologist, a physician, in preventive medicine, she can give us some good tips as well. So let me introduce the ladies I have with me. Again, I have Dr. Jennifer Bolton. She's a registered dietitian and professor at Metro State University in Denver. She teaches nutrition, lifestyle medicine, the idea of culinary medicine, which I'll ask her about in just a moment. And then Dr. Pao Coley, again, joining us, and she can answer your coronavirus questions that you may have or any other health questions that you have. So first, Dr. Bolton, tell us, or actually, I'm going to start with Dr. Coley real quick, just to get an update on things, going on today. Tell us an update about the coronavirus today, what we need to know.
We had 5,655 diagnosed cases in the state, 1,162 hospitalizations, and we're almost close to 200 deaths, so 193 deaths. Our curve still seems to be growing in a linear fashion rather than an exponential fashion, so that all seems to be good news. And nationwide, we also got some more good news that the hospitalizations in New York are starting to level off, suggesting that they may have hit their peak or that they're going to peak today or in the next day or so. So that's all good news. And again, more evidence that social distancing is working. We have still had a disappointing response to the governor's directive to wear masks when people leave their homes. And people are still, getting outside without wearing those. And I want to encourage everyone to just do that again, not just to protect yourself, but really to protect others, your neighbor, and your community. So important.
And that's even just like going out on your daily walk around your neighborhood, right?
Everything, exactly. It doesn't have to be a closed space. It doesn't have to be a grocery store, but even just going out in open spaces, it's important to cover those droplets because those droplets are constantly getting out whenever we're breathing.
Thank you for that update. Dr. Bolton, let's talk a little bit now about the idea of lifestyle medicine, culinary medicine, healing and preventing chronic conditions with food. You're going to give us a healthy recipe that's also a very yummy recipe today that's hopefully easy, something we can make with things we already have in our kitchen. So tell us a little bit about the idea of culinary medicine and what we're making.
So today we're making white bean chicken chili, and the idea behind culinary medicine or lifestyle medicine is the 6 pillars of health, and one of those is culinary nutrition or nutrition to prevent both chronic and acute diseases. And so the recipe we're making has lots of immune boosting factors in it, lots of immune boosting foods in it, and so it's also really easy to make. We've got some things that I just had in my cupboard. We have canned corn and canned beans and some green chili. We also had some green chili sauce. All the spices that I have. I also have some chicken broth. And my lines are looking a little old, but they're still good to use. And so one of the things we're going to talk about today is how to make the recipe and what the components of the recipe have in them, why they're important for health. But we're also going to talk about substitution. So if you don't have, say, an onion in your refrigerator or in your pantry right now, what else can you put in there? If you don't have Great Northern beans, what else can you put in there? So we're going to talk a little bit about substitutions as well to make this recipe a little bit easier for everyone at home.
Nice. And Dr. Coley, I wanted to ask you as well, as a cardiologist, physician, talk a little bit about, she mentioned food and boosting immunity. What other ways do we have to boost immunity right now?
So we do know that certain vitamins and minerals are essential for immune function. Vitamin A, B, C, D, and E, so easy to remember. And also iron, selenium, and zinc. Those are important micronutrients to have in your diet. So it's important to eat a well-balanced diet. And for most of us, if we're eating our fruits and vegetables as we're supposed to, 5 servings of fruits and vegetables, we are usually able to get a relatively good representation of these vitamins and minerals. I don't usually recommend supplementing with pills unless you have a medical reason for potentially having a deficiency. So if your levels are low for any reason, the first place to start is really think about changing your diet. I do want to also add that in the time of social distancing, stocking up on food supplies and quarantining, we're turning more to canned foods than we had ever done so before. And we do have to be really cautious because canned foods, because of their preservatives and the way that they're processed, tend to be very high in sodium. And that can even include, prepared things like soups and things like that, but also even canned vegetables and other such things can have high sodium content. So be very mindful of how much sodium you're eating in your diet, because it's very easy to let that sneak up on us. And we may be getting less exercise than usual as well. So we're probably, getting rid of less sodium as well than we usually do. So it's important to track it. And the best way to do that is to download an app or just, write it down how much sodium you're eating every day, with a goal sodium of less than 1,500 milligrams daily. So that's 1.5 grams. So everything you eat, all of the things you're eating all day, should add up to less than 1,500 milligrams.
And too much sodium, again, just talk about the health ramifications of having too much sodium. Is it just hard on our heart? Is it hard on other parts of our body? And anything else that we should be making sure we have in our kitchen right now that's healthy and, perishable, really?
So, sodium does a lot of damage, and what it does is water follows sodium, so it tends to make you hold on to water. Sodium can directly cause your blood pressure to go up, which can cause hardening and stiffening, not just of the heart muscle, but also of the arteries, causing high blood pressure, hypertension. It can also put stress on the kidneys when you have too much sodium, and your other electrolytes can also get thrown out of whack. So what I generally tend to encourage people is, instead of sodium, we want to really be eating potassium-rich foods, because potassium and sodium are enemies. And eating a lot of potassium in things like fruits and vegetables actually helps our body to excrete more sodium. So it actually improves our sodium metabolism as well. The only people who have to be careful with their potassium intake are people that have kidney disease, or people that are taking certain medications called ACE inhibitors or aldosterone antagonists. So if you're not on any medications and you don't have kidney problems, you really want to try to enrich the amount of potassium in your diet to help us get rid of that sodium, because that sodium is very toxic to many different organs in the body.
Okay, great. And again, I'm Stephanie with 9 Health. We're cooking in the kitchen today with an easy recipe, getting some advice from Dr. Coley, as well as nutrients you need to be on the lookout for and things you should be eating, should not be eating. I'm going to let Dr. Jennifer Bolton take it away. She's a registered dietitian and a professor at Metro State University in Denver, teaches nutrition, lifestyle medicine. Let's let her get cooking. She has a great recipe to share with us today that's good for us, tastes good, and she can also offer some substitutions as well if you don't have some things in your kitchen. So, Dr. Bolton, I will, and you can go ahead and start cooking.
That sounds great. I'm making white bean chicken chili. And Dr. Coley had just mentioned potassium. And so not only can we get potassium from fruits and vegetables, but we can also get it from things like onions. And so I'm going to use a little bit of olive oil here in my pan. Turn my burner on. Heat up that olive oil a little bit. And then I'm adding 2 cups of onions into my pot. And I'm going to cook those onions until they start to brown. That 2 cups of onions is going to provide a lot of potassium. Your onions are also going to provide vitamin C, which is an immune booster, a little bit of folate, B6. So all those B vitamins are immune boosters as well. So now these onions are starting to brown up. You can see them browning up here in my pan, getting brown. And I'm going to go ahead and add in a little squeeze of garlic. It says a couple of chopped cloves, but I'm doing the cheater's way because this is what I had in my refrigerator. I had this already chopped garlic. Garlic, also a great antioxidant, helps boost your immune system and helpful with cardiac health. So we're now browning up the garlic for about 30 seconds. Once that garlic is all browned up, be careful not to let your garlic burn. If it burns, it becomes bitter. It doesn't taste very good. So once that garlic is all browned up there, I'm going to turn on the light here so we can see a little bit better. Once the garlic is browned up here, we're going to add in our chicken. Again, this is what I had in my freezer. A lot of times I'll take a crock pot and I will cook 10 or 12 chicken breasts, and then I'll shred them and I'll put them in individual packages in my freezer. That decreases the amount of time that I have to spend cooking the chicken, I'm using a white meat chicken breast, low in fat, high in protein and iron. Iron is also involved in helping with the immune system in addition to a variety of other things. And so I've got this already in my freezer. Substitutions, canned chicken. Substitutions, no chicken at all. Make it a vegetarian dish. Add more white meat. So you could use chicken that's not cooked. If you use chicken that's not cooked, you need to cut it into small pieces, and then you need to cook it until there's no more pink evident in the chicken. Okay? So now we've got that mixed in there. Again, I just took that from my freezer, defrosted it, and I'm going to put it in there. Now, this is one of those recipes that, a 3-year-old could do. We're just dumping in 32 ounces of low-sodium chicken broth. So I like that Dr. Coley talked about, look at more canned foods, we see more sodium. And so it's important that we're choosing low-sodium versions of things like chicken broth. You can also use low-sodium canned vegetables. So if we wanted to use a low-sodium canned corn, we could do that. Now I'm just dumping everything in. Got my chicken broth. I've got my white beans. Last week I mentioned you can use any white beans that you want. I'm going to say that about this recipe too. Great Northern beans. You can use garbanzo beans. You can use white pinto beans. It's really up to you. I chose to use a frozen corn. My frozen corn is going to be lower in sodium than my canned corn. So there we're being heart healthy. Add in my corn. Add in 1 teaspoon of cumin, 1 teaspoon of coriander, and 2 teaspoons of oregano. Again, that's a way to add flavor without adding any extra sodium. So this is going to be a high vitamin C, high folate, high potassium, high magnesium, high B6, thiamine meal with a lot of fiber, low fat protein, and it's also delicious. Now you have to make a choice. If you have any of those delicious Hatch green chilies that were roasted from the summertime, you can add those in. This is 2 cans of Hatch green chili. The other option is to use an already made green chili. I've used the 505 green chili before, a little higher in sodium, so you need to think about what you need to do here. But we could either add the canned green chilies or we could add the green chili that's already made. Mix that up. Looks fantastic. And then the last thing I'm going to do is squeeze the juice of my sad little limes in there. About 2 tablespoons of lime juice. You don't have to have one of these fancy squeezers. You can just use your hands. If you are going to use your hands to squeeze the lime juice, I want you to squeeze it into your hand like this so you catch the seeds. Of course, I washed my hands. I sang the ABCs, washed my hands before we started to cook today. I actually washed them again while you were trying to get this to go to Facebook Live, just to make sure that we had really clean hands. One of the best things that we can do to prevent the spread of disease is wash hands. And so we want to make sure that we're washing our hands really often, but certainly we're washing our hands before and after we're cooking. So that's all there and ready to go. It's going to cook for 20 minutes. And once it's been cooking for 20 minutes, this is what it looks like.
And Dr. Coley, the corn went in frozen, right? You didn't have to microwave that or thaw that or anything. It just went in frozen. Or sorry, Dr. Bolton.
I didn't microwave it. I didn't thaw it. It will cook in the 20 minutes that it's going to sit on the stovetop. So here's what it looks like. Let me get a spoon. That's delicious. This recipe came from one of my graduate students, Michelle. I've made a couple of different versions of white bean chicken chili, but this one I love the best because it has a lot of green chilies in it, and it just adds a little flavor. In place of sodium, we use spices and things like green chilies to add flavor, and that way we don't notice the missing sodium. You notice we didn't add any salt to this meal, and we used mostly low sodium canned foods. If you wanted to add some of the tortilla chips to it, you could. You could add a little sour cream, a little bit of cheese. Because this is a really low fat, high fiber meal, if you're serving it to your family, you can add just a little bit of cheese, a little bit of sour cream, some crushed tortilla chips if you'd like to, or it's delicious just the way it is.
And I'm going to ask Dr. Bolton and Dr. Coley both this question, but if you're going to the grocery store right now or ordering some groceries, what are you buying? What are you putting in your kitchen?
What am I buying? I actually didn't have to go to the grocery store for this meal, but what I'm buying is all of the canned beans. I'm buying canned meats like canned chicken. I'm buying canned tuna that's packaged in water instead of oil. I'm buying frozen fruits and vegetables. And so, you know, if we looked in my freezer drawer here, I've got bags of frozen vegetables. That was frozen fruit, but bags of frozen vegetables, bags of frozen fruit. I've got some meals that I've doubled up on. So the other night when I made a regular chili, a vegetarian chili, I doubled up on the recipe. So now I have one bag in my freezer and one that I served my family that night. So I've got lots of frozen fruits and vegetables, canned low sodium beans, canned low sodium vegetables, and all my spices are there to take the place of where I might add salt to add a lot of flavor.
Great. And Dr. Coley, I wanted to ask you the same question. You know, if you're going shopping right now at the grocery store, what are some items that you're getting that are healthy but, you know, will last if needed?
So I think Dr. Bolton described a couple of the frozen items as well as, you know, the dried foods. But what I also get is quinoa, because I really love using quinoa instead of rice or pasta because it's high in protein and it's a dried food, so it lasts and holds its shelf life for quite some time. But I do want to emphasize it's important to try to really buy groceries for 2 or 3 weeks. We're very much used to being in the habit of going to the grocery store and buying things for the next few days or a week or so. Most people go once a week, but at this point, given the social distancing, given that we've had multiple workers test positive in multiple grocery stores in the Denver metro area, including Whole Foods and King Soopers, it's really out of the house and try to stock up for 2 or 3 weeks at a time.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I usually order our groceries, and I think now is a good time to especially order your groceries, but things are still out of stock. I think grocery stores are getting a little bit back to normal, according to one of my 9 Health coworkers yesterday said, you know, she found toilet paper, she found meats again. We're still trying to get things delivered if we can and just left on our porch. And a trick I learned this week is just, and I have a 4-month-old, so it's easier for me, but around like midnight, 1 a.m. is when the new times are released for delivery, for grocery delivery from Walmart, Amazon. So it's easier to get in some of those slots to get groceries delivered because that's still a little crazy as well. I want to thank both of these ladies for joining me today. I will post the recipe in the comments, again, joining you from my phone and to Zoom, doing all the things today to get these gals on. But thank you both for joining us. I'll post the link to the recipe, which is on 9healthfair.org. I'll post that right now in the comments. And also I want to mention our 9 Health Neighbors program. If you have a health question, a medical question that you need answered by a health professional, you can call 303-698-4455, extension 2005. Leave a message, and then within 24 hours, a real person, a medical professional, will call you back, answer your questions, chat. Sometimes it's just nice to talk to someone on the phone, especially if you know a neighbor or someone that doesn't have access to Facebook Lives or, you know, other methods of asking questions, just looking up things online or watching the news online. Pass that along to your neighbors as well. But I'm going to sign off for now. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon.